Hey everyone, thanks for being patient. Thanks for checking into the Traded Black podcast. I'm your host, Shad Dales. Happy Monday. Lots to dive into here today, including some trending Canadian LP numbers. There's some top 5 companies that are trending upwards here in the first 5 months of 2024. Who are they? We break it down as well. We look at the California market involving the Jones Soda Company. Some interesting stuff unfolding in the state of California. We'll get into that as well. And don't blink now, but the ETF YOLO is the best performing cannabis fund here in 2024. Dan Ahrens from Advisor Shares joins us to talk more about that, among other things. So lots to jump into. Let's welcome in Anthony Varrell, TDR co-host. Good to see you. Happy Monday.
How's it going? It's been a busy Monday so far.
Yes, it's been busy. Appreciate everybody for checking in and as well being patient to get going here till 4:04. But lots to dive into. Interesting times to say the least. But as our thumbnail title says, is it time to get into the cannabis space? We got some interesting emails DM'd us on Twitter in the last couple of days, but we'll get into that in a little bit later. But that's first, as I try to get my old chair all fixed up here. But let's first jump into the wire here on TDR and focus on out west in the state of California, where the Jones Soda Company, they're facing a potential major market loss involving their hemp fuse line. You want to fill us in on what's going on here?
Yeah, so the state of California actually issued a notice to the public health identifying several flavors in the Jones soda lines, both the 5 and the 10 milligrams, for containing illegal Delta-9 isolates. Didn't say, I mean, they're obviously hemp-derived drinks. California has a highly sophisticated traditional adult use cannabis market. I mean, I'm really looking forward to seeing some follow-up on this. There isn't a lot of clarity. Jones had originally gotten a notice, and they didn't respond to the notice from the state of California. So the state of California took it a step further and issued an entire advisory warning against the products. From my understanding, this is about a $600,000 market for them. So, I mean, I think this is the tip of the spear. I mean, granted, I don't know how much to look into this, as the state of California basically says everything causes cancer as far as their product labels and their warnings go. However, I mean, this could be the beginning of states clamping down on hemp. I'm speaking in complete hyperbole there and complete assumption, as there isn't a lot of rhyme and reason into why the state of California did this, but this is a hemp-derived Delta-9 THC beverage that's on shelves in the state of California, and the state of California is claiming that it includes illegal Delta-9 isolate, and they would like something to be done about this.
Yeah.
So this is I think this is pretty interesting, to say the least. It's going to develop, I would assume, pretty quickly. They can't just stick the finger to the state of California and say, hey, we're going to keep the product on the shelves. Deal with it.
Yeah. So if you're a shareholder, big takeaway here, how concerned do you think you should be?
Concerned. Jones Soda is a very large soda company. I mean, they have a bunch of the craft sodas in glass bottles and that aren't THC infused or I guess alcohol infused. It's a very large company, Jones Soda. They make those orange cream sodas and the different colored sodas you'd see in like a Fresh Market or a Whole Foods. So, I mean, it is a pretty renowned brand. So, I mean, I'm very curious to see actually what they do in regards to this issuance from the state of California.
We know what they do last year. Had revenue of $17.8 million in 12 months ending in March 31st, 2024. Would you say how big the California market is for this?
600 grand roughly for them.
Well, something that we'll be following closely. Into the wire, Monday afternoon. I'm your host, Shad Dales, along with Anthony Varrell. If you haven't done so already, leave some comments below, smash that like button, and subscribe to our baked-in newsletter. We'll now skip on to headline number 3, which is up north in Canada, and some interesting stats that came out regarding some Canadian LPs who seem to be trending upwards in the first 5 months of 2024, including Village Farms in Organigram. You want to highlight some of the stuff that you found here? It's seems to be a promising year so far for, like I said, Village Farms. I know we had Michael on a couple of weeks ago. We like what he had to say, and now the numbers are backing up everything that he's saying, right?
Yeah, I mean, this was a report that Pablo put out this morning with Zuanich and Associates on Canadian rec trends.
Yeah,
it was very interesting. He broke down all 3 segments into the market leaders, into the percentage of market share that they've either gained, lost, or maintained from Q1 2022 to now. And I mean, the numbers were quite interesting. In the flower category, The top 5 are Village Farms, Tilray, Organigram, Kronos, who would have thought, and Auxly, with Village Farms having the #1 position. They've actually grown their market share from 10 to 16% in the 2-year period. Tilray is basically flat at 13.4%, and OCI has actually lost market share, going from 10% to 9% over the 2-year period. What I thought was most interesting was Tilray went from about 13.4 to I think 14.6, and then back down to 13.4. But I mean, Village Farms is backing up what they reported last quarter, with their market share growing 6% in the 2-year period. Then he broke down pre-rolls, which Decibel actually has the #1 market share position in Canada. Tilray has 2, OGI's 3, Village Farms is 4, and then Weed Me, that I'm not familiar with, has 5. Decibel's actually grown its market share from 5% to 14.2%.
Wow.
2 years. And I mean, that's kind of what I've heard, or that's what the most attractive thing is when it relates to Decibel, is the impressive growth that they've had in the pre-roll category across Canada. From my understanding, it's an infused pre-roll that is one of their best sellers and is the reason for the uptick in market share. But to go from 5% to 14.2% is pretty impressive. Now, on the contrary, Tilray has gone from 23.7% to 11% in that 2-year period. So they've had their market share. Yeah, they've had their market share slashed in half almost. They've been on the decline, and they've been on the decline in a lot of their categories. And I mean, that is a big percentage of market share to be taken away. But it doesn't actually. Decibel's not the largest in terms of growth. When we're looking at the vape category, the top 5 are Motif, Auxly, Decibel, Kronos, and again Tilray. Motif has gone from 3.2% to 20%.
Yep.
In a 2-year period. That's a pretty damn impressive growth profile when we're talking about the product category. Pablo attributed that to larger formats. So I'm assuming I don't know the company very well, but I'm assuming they have larger vapes that resonate well within the category. Something like what you've seen Curaleaf do with the stick and the larger select vape formats in the States. Auxly's gone from 19.1 to 10.4%. Getting slashed in half. So you can see where that market share is being directly taken from on the Motif side. And then once again, Tilray has gone from 17% to 6% in a 2-year period. So their market share has diminished drastically in the pre-roll and vape category. I mean, those are 2 of the biggest takeaways from Pablo's report. The trend in Tilray in their, let's say, manufactured goods segments with both pre-rolls and vape, and Decibel going from that 3.2% market share to 20% of the entire Canadian market in a 2-year period. I find that pretty impressive.
Jacob Ripstein, hopefully I'm pronouncing his last name, Ripstein, leading the way there with that company. Sean Dim, actually, there's a name I haven't heard in a long time, but he's the chairman of the company. But that is a big increase in market share for sure.
Very much so. It was a good report by Pablo. This was it was a bunch of major data points you could draw into the Canadian market. As far as growth, it wasn't overall overly impressive, but he categorized, I think, the top 20 in each product category, and then the market as a whole with some major insights into that as well.
Jacob Ripstein, that was a name that trended so much in the early days of cannabis, in his days at Diageo, and the whole connection to Afria. But wow. Guy knows his product, and you can't argue it. Up from 5 to a 14% market share gain. That's a big leap, to say the least. Okay, that wraps up Into the Wire here on a Monday afternoon. Yes, this has been short, but MSO Monday is going to be a big, long one, nice in depth. So let's cue the music. Ahrens, cue it up. We're going to bring in Mr. Dan Ahrens. Happy Monday, sir. How are you?
I'm hanging in there. I don't know if I can say a whole lot else besides that, but there's stuff happening.
You win some, you lose some in the city of Dallas. Your boys are going to the NBA Finals, and your hockey team got beat out last night. But I'm sure the city is alive and well, gearing up for the finals later this week. But Love this time of year, right?
Super excited about the Dallas Mavs. And I like the side stories between the Mavs and the Celtics. That's some fun stuff of swapping players and having some history.
Can't talk about sports. They might get spicy in the comment section. This is only cannabis investing information, and that's it. We're barred from talking about anything else. So we got to stay.
Just an intro.
We got to stay on the ball. They're gonna get pissed.
Oh, they're gonna get pissed.
All right. What do they got to do? Attack us on the X?
Yeah.
Maybe. That's nothing unusual, right?
Yeah.
As I said off the top with YOLO, let's jump into some cannabis fund conversation, more specifically your ETF YOLO, which is by far the best performing cannabis fund year to date, and it's not even close. Well. What do you have to say about that, Mr. Ahrens?
I like it with a couple asterisks next to it because I'm proud of that fund. I think it's a great fund. I think more people should look underneath, look at the holdings that are published every day, see what's going on there. But it rose to number one because a lot of our U.S. multi-state operators have suffered the last 3 weeks or so, and that's undeniable. MSOS is, of course, the mothership at this point. It's a large, close to $1 billion fund still.
Yep.
But I think YOLO needs more love. It's a pretty good fund.
What do you
Are
make?
You adding?
Go ahead.
Are you adding or actively looking at the Canadian names, or are you more so looking to maintain the Canadian positions and then bring on like deeper positions in the MSOs or MSOS as a whole?
Well, as a reminder to those that don't know, YOLO existed before the fund MSOs ever existed, and it was the first fund to use total return swaps. We invented all that stuff, got the legal opinions for it. But after MSOs started growing, we made a decision to have YOLO invest in MSOs. Some other people have copied that structure as well. We waived the fees, so we're not double dipping. So about half, or a little less than half, of the fund YOLO has the fund MSOs as its top holding.
Okay.
But to answer your question, Anthony, this is where it really gets into what is active management. Active management doesn't mean I'm fooling with it every day or every week. It's not an index. So the largest holding besides the affiliated fund is High Tide. And got to be blunt, High Tide's been a pretty good performer this year.
Very.
Right behind that, there's Village Farms. And then there's something else that's the number 4 holding in the fund is Cardiol. Is Cardiol a cannabis company? Well, it ain't a dispensary. It ain't an operator like that, but it's certainly a cannabis company.
There's a name I've not heard in a while.
I've known about Cardiol for a long time. I mean, I'm sure they broadened out their research, but they were working on myocarditis.
Exactly.
And the connections with cannabinoids, and it's a great company.
But then as long as we're talking about the holdings and why has this fund outperformed others that have the ability to invest in Canadians or to invest internationally, and this is kind of a global fund. Yeah, right behind Cardiol, we got SNDL.
Yep.
We got Cron. We got Organigram. And you have to look for quite a bit further to see Tilray. And you have to look really far down to see Canopy. So they're in there. They're underweighted. There's no Aurora. You're not going to see any Aurora in there. So
I didn't see Aurora in a lot of Pablo's numbers on that research report. And I got to say, I know I give Kronos a lot of shit, but I mean, being number 4 overall in flower in Canada and also being number 4 overall in vape. Granted, the numbers were not big from a percentage basis, but I mean, they obviously are selling something north of the border in Canada.
Yeah, and Cron still has plenty of money in the bank. People thought they kind of forgot they were an operator. They're almost like a holding fund or something right now, waiting for all that cash. But hey, you're saying they're showing up in the numbers, so they're kind of a safe bet. So anyway, people, that's your advertisement. Look at YOLO. We think it's a good fund. If you ask me where I have more personal money, I have more personal money in MSOX and MSOS because I'll have to die on this hill, but I think that's where the best opportunities are long term.
So with that strategy, like I know that we've talked about decay in MSOX a couple of times. I mean, with your personal capital, you're comfortable holding it for, let's say, medium to long durations, or is that like a short term trade?
I cannot advise that because everybody do not fool with MSOX without reading our website and reading the prospectus.
Yep.
There is decay. It's volatile as hell. On any single day, it usually does about 2x what MSOS does. Does that math work over a month or 6 months? No, it does not. But yeah, I'm over invested in MSOX and its options. And yeah, know about the decay, know how it works. And it's more of a short-term trade. But hey, you can short-term trade the hell out of it in and out.
Yeah.
That's what it's there for.
So, yeah, I mean, it was up what, 60% on the on the last big day, I think, at its peak.
Something like that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So as our title,
I'm not allowed to quote numbers.
Yeah, as our title says today, it says marijuana stocks, time to get in with a question mark. There's been a few family. What's that? Sorry?
I think that's a big question mark. Yes.
It's a big question mark. We did get some information regarding a few family shops over the weekend that suggested that, the much improved upside reward versus the downside risk. This is the reason why they're buying cannabis equities again. What do you make, some of the stuff that you've... Go ahead.
Who said that?
Doug Cass.
Hey, everybody, dial it down a notch. Doug is a trader. He is not a long-term buy and hold investor.
Trader. And I thought you said traitor.
Oh,
Trader.
No, trader. He trades. He is allowed to do whatever the hell he wants. And sometimes he's bullish, and sometimes he is not. And but hey, back to where Shad was. He apparently is back in. He's bullish again.
Got an email today basically saying buying cannabis equities again. As suggested in my recent cannabis column last week, I'm reloading at MSOs with a much improved upside reward versus downside risk, having declined from nearly $12 per share recently. More to come in the next day or so, but thought that was interesting to say the least. And I've just talked to a few people in the market right now that are saying, like, have we hit this bottom? I'm not going to ask that question. No one really understands. But I think a lot of the stuff too that's been pleasantly to see is like the public comment period. We've eclipsed the 10,000 mark. I think it was today, if I'm correct, Anthony. But I think over 97% of the comments right now have been positive ones. So I don't know what you can deem as good, not good. But I would say if somebody told me a month ago that if we got 10,000 comments the first couple of weeks and 97% were positive, I'd sure as hell take it. And is that starting to have, I guess, a turn in perception on some of these equities right now on how we're moving forward? Because, as we know, like there's no new money in. It's going to take still a couple of months. We're going into those summer months, but is this a good time to get in? And again, not investment advice, but that's just some of the sentiment I'm hearing and seeing in the last couple of days and weeks recently, which has been a nice surprise.
I think I agree with that. I don't think we have any, anything happening that's a catalyst right now. And I think we all need to have a good understanding of money on the sidelines. And the fact that we live in our cannabis bubble here. We have a bunch of cannabis investors listening to us right now. And what we know about cannabis, what we think about cannabis, what we think about cannabis reform is a lot different than your average individual investor, your average financial advisor, your average virtually anything. All they know is that nothing's happened yet.
Yeah.
There's all these to your average uninformed person, it's just another rumor that something might be happening in cannabis. And they have no idea to think no reason to think that anything's real.
Yeah, but I feel like the people that are involved now, like it's just, we have a lot of long-term investors. Like, is the volatility still there? Anthony, you want to outline some of that? I know you had a smirk on your face when I was saying something, but go ahead.
So I don't think the comment period means anything, to be honest. I think Biden's going to push this through regardless. I think the comment period is great. I mean, I think it gives you insight into what's going on. It's obviously positive that, let's say 97% of the comments are positive. But at this point, when you look at the Office of National Drug Policy, you look at Biden, you look at Garland, I think they're pushing this thing through regardless. going
I do too.
into the election. I also think no one's going to time the market. I mean, sure, it's probably a good time. It could be a good time to toe in. I mean, I made a purchase last week with Ascend. I'm really waiting though till after the comment period. I think that's going to signify that just the clock is rapidly decaying and elapsing. And I think that a lot of people too are waiting until the comment period expires because they do feel like that's the ultimate period of uncertainty.
Yeah.
Paired with the middle of the summer. So I mean, I can respect Doug's entry point. I'm sure as hell going to bet that he's not going all in right now, and this might be 10% of what he wants to put on. But I'm still very cautiously optimistic as far as it goes with putting overall money into the market right now.
Yep. And you're right. No one can time the market. That's why I buy at these prices and hold, writes Mohammed Shaheen. Great to hear from you on a Monday. We've actually touched on this a few times the last week or so. Anthony and I have, Dan, but Ohio set to go live relatively soon. That's obviously going to be some exciting times and a lot of companies gearing up for that opportunity. But here's hoping. And I think we will see some numbers similar to Maryland from a year ago. But this has all the makings of like a Maryland 2.0. It's a bigger size market. But obviously, that is a big component for this industry going into these summer months, right?
Yeah, I think it's great. And don't be fooled. I mean, Ohio is a substantial state. It's a big state, very populous. But the most important thing is they're not going to do us like New York. They are looking at states that have done things properly and turned on adult use, making it available for existing license holders in the medical market. Arizona did it. Maryland's a great example most recently. Let them turn on adult use sales where they have existing brick and mortar and they know what the heck they're doing for a medical market already. So, and then you look at the license holders that are publicly traded MSOs. Yeah, Ohio's big. Now,
very big.
is that going to make our prices go up? Our stock prices go up? No, because we're waiting on everything else. Is it a very strong incremental positive to fundamentals? Absolutely. It's good.
Got a good question from Taka. Can you explain why levered index funds have performed substantially better than the underlying index daily leverage resets? Do you care to comment on that?
Well, first of all, thanks for your question, Taka. I don't know if I agree with has performed substantially better. It all depends on what time frame you're looking at, because do go to advisorshares.com and go to the page for MSOX. We have education, which is the most important thing if you're going to use any kind of levered ETF, and the prospectus itself. And it does talk about the decay. And just Google it and look for some other education out there. The problem with a levered or an inverse ETF is it is based on an index. It's typically a 1 day 2x. That's what our MSOX is. It is supposed to be 2x the performance up or down for 1 day. But yeah, just get out some math. If a fund goes up 5%, then it goes down 6%, then it goes up 8%, then it goes down 10%.
Yeah.
And you get out your calculator and play with that, you're going to say, oh shit, that doesn't add up very well over the course of a week. If it's volatile, like the example. I don't know how to answer it better than that, except read your stuff.
Good to know. I'll put you guys on the spot. John writes, Dan, which do you feel are the top 2 MSOs that will own Ohio? You want to steer clear of that?
Yeah, I want to steer clear of that. But
all right, next question.
So I can answer that to an extent.
Yeah, and Anthony, just your opinion, just an opinion.
I'm not going on my opinion. I'm going on what Pablo actually put in his Ohio report.
Yep.
He believes acreage has the most torque and the most upside in Ohio. And then he was also bullish on air as far as some of his top names in Ohio. But all the major MSOs are in Ohio. It's going to be like Maryland all over again.
Yeah, it's interesting. I'm sorry. Yeah, it's interesting if you're talking about the top MSOs because everybody listening, they are there. But I'm glad you said acreage because, small operator, they're off most people's radars. But yeah, they have the word torque. So does Vexed. Vexed as the Ohio.
Do they really?
That's off most people's radar.
So Pablo's top 4 names actually were Vexed, the Cannabis, Acreage, and
not Air.
The fourth.
And Air.
Air wasn't top 4 in terms of torque, because it was market cap. It was upside. It was an upside market cap metric. I think it might have been Juicy. That's
no, that makes sense.
You guys want to explain real quick to some of our audience that wants to know what do you mean by the term torque in this particular situation?
Upside.
Yeah, that's the simplest one, but it's looking at the overall company and their exposure to that state as well. Torque can mean lots of things, but sometimes it's a beaten up stock. Sometimes it's if you look at how much exposure they have to the state of Ohio versus their overall company.
Yeah, and via Pablo's insights as well, these are his numbers. Acreage has around a 9.5% market share of the entire state of Ohio.
Yeah,
which is a formidable number.
Notable name, the Cannabis, as you said, that top 4, Robert Griffiths. I see you with that ticker symbol. But yeah, that's a notable name to pay attention to in that Ohio market. And I know they've got a lot on their plate right now, but steering the ship in the right direction, the number one way to do that is to be in key markets. And this is going to be a key market, that's for sure. You did bring up New York before I get into the next thing, but what'd you think of that $15.2 million fine? Did you come across that or read about that story?
No. Is that an illegal operator in New York getting fined?
There was. Biggest in New York state history. We were talking about that late last week, but
okay, now let's place bets on their odds of actually collecting that from this illegal operator.
Never.
Come on.
That's not going to happen.
Sounds encouraging, the headline, but when you look under the hood, you're right. It's like, where are they? And that's probably not going to turn much into anything.
Yeah.
I do want to bring up, you brought up a person's name. I was putting these notes together. What was the last name again? Mish Schneider, this is a chief strategy officer. Is that correct? But there is some interesting information regarding a video that you wanted to bring up. You want to elaborate off of that, Dan?
Yeah. I found it super interesting. So Miss Schneider was on Schwab Network earlier today. I think it was yesterday with we did a lot of appearances there, and now she's a very respected market strategist and financial advisor that gets on TV a lot.
Okay,
and she follows cannabis and brought up cannabis, and once at first I thought, oh, out of touch, and then I thought, nope, she's not out of touch. She is in touch, and there's just different ways to invest because we sit here and bitch a lot about OTC trading. We're waiting for custody. We're waiting for uplisting, all these things that negatively affect OTC traded stocks.
Okay.
She says she's watching Philip Morris as a cannabis stock. I'm like, it's not a cannabis stock. And she goes, so look for the video. It's out there on the X, people. It's at Schwab Network today, Miss Schneider. And Schwab Network, to their credit, listed some tickers such as Curaleaf and GTI, I think, a couple relevant tickers. But she says she's watching Philip Morris, and she thinks when that stock moves, that's going to be her signal that maybe there's some actual federal reform actually happening.
Wow. Philip Morris?
Yeah. And again, my first example, Anthony, or first thought was that's completely out of touch. My second thought is she is a pretty in touch, very respected market strategist and financial advisor who doesn't know anything about our cannabis stocks because we live in this little bubble.
Yeah.
We talk about these stocks every single day, and she is more in touch than your average financial advisor. So your average financial advisor knows even less about the status of federal reform, about the difference between Canada and the US, these OTC traded stocks, and what the status of federal reform is. Because do you know what, Anthony and Shad? Nothing's happened yet.
Yeah.
We have nothing concrete. Nothing happened. So I think she's out of touch. And
did she give reasons why? With Philip
Hold on, but hold on. I mean,
watch the video.
Okay.
Because
I mean, I can
don't
give
agree with her at all. I'm just using this as an example, as your average financial advisor is out of touch with the stuff we talk about every day. I don't want to slam her at all. She's highly respected. This is the wrong take. Don't get me wrong.
Yeah, I mean, I mean, with all due respect, if you think the canary in the coal mine that's going to move and it's going to be Philip Morris is a signal for buying into the cannabis industry at large, like, you haven't done any homework. Like, you haven't even.
That's the point, Anthony.
You haven't even read.
But I don't want to slam her.
But that's crazy. If that's your thesis, you shouldn't be talking about the entire industry, to be completely frank, because you have Anthony, no idea.
That's what 98% of financial advisors think.
But still, throwing a dart and saying AB InBev is probably a better guess than something like Philip Morris. That just seems to me so far fetched. But I mean, let's see if she's right, which I'm be willing to bet is not the case.
I have a very important announcement. We got a new kitten this month.
What's cat's name?
Kitty. Its official name from the SPCA was Oreo, but it's just Kitty to us. But no, Anthony, that's the whole point. And again, because I didn't really want to slam her, because she's a very respected market strategist. Yeah. And your average investment advisor out there knows nothing about this space.
Yeah. You're on Schwab Network, aren't you? From time to time.
Often. Yeah.
Do you think there's ever a time
they don't think about maybe pairing you up with her for a little education session?
Pitch the idea.
I've talked about it, and she wasn't on there to talk about cannabis. She was on there to talk about a lot of things. Okay. Just an example of your average mindset of your average investment advisor out there. That means while we're sitting here bitching about stock prices week after week, and I'm pretty negative on it right now, I'm upset. We're still early. We got nothing concrete done yet.
Yeah, it's because coming. I mean, you could say Altria or Bats, and it'd be a much better guess than Philip Morris. At least they do have leverage. To the sector.
No, I think she's badly mistargeted, but a very smart person, and that's the average take out there.
Yeah, but to your point, that's the bubble we continue to live in, right?
Yep.
And until these things start to move and make noise, there is zero interest. They just look at companies with big valuations and big market caps. And I get it, but it's one day we'll have our day in the sun. But that's why we're here. British Tobacco has a large investment in Organigram, do they? I'm not aware.
Yeah, they certainly do.
They're 150 million into Organigram.
Yeah.
If not more. And then Altria's paired with Kronos.
Yep.
They both have both of them have direct leverage. I think Philip Morris has nothing.
They don't
as far as leverage to the sector.
Yeah.
It's a great example of, after the Constellation investment into Canopy and then the Altria investment into Kronos, most of these big companies, even British American Tobacco, tap the brakes.
Yeah.
Go, okay, we're not going to make another majority investment into these companies. We're going to wait on federal reforms in the U.S. And then BTI made a partial investment into Organigram. They don't control it. They don't have a majority of it, but they wanted to do a lot of joint ventures and side deals. That's the big difference between what Constellation did and what Altria did.
Yeah.
But British American Tobacco is deep in organic.
You make a good point, though. These big companies, big brands, they want to just wait just a little bit longer, which is probably the right strategy. We actually interviewed David Klein last week from Canaccord. I liked his transparency, or Canaccord from Canopy. And anyways, was very transparent. He basically said that, let's face it, Constellation did get in a little too early, but yes, they got in early to say the least. But some lessons I think learned by some of these bigger brands to say, okay, we're here. But, timing isn't right. But needless to say, in due time, they will, once we get legislation movement, which creates a lot of upside potential for this industry. Last thing I wanted to touch on is we've heard from a few people, this big conference regarding cannabis related to Canaccord in New York that took place 2 weeks ago was relatively quiet. I did speak to Emily Paxia, and she said, look, there's been some feedback, people talking about it's quiet, not new money. She said, I can assure you while we were there, it was quiet. It's because people were in a lot of boardroom meetings, and there was a lot of really good meetings that took place pertaining to that. So don't read too much into that. You were there. What's your take?
It's true. I really enjoyed being there. It's a different audience. It's all a institutional-ish audience. I say ish because we're still talking about hedge funds, companies like Canaccord. But heck, first speaker was Boris Jordan. Second speaker was Kim Rivers, and then I spoke right after them, along with a gentleman from the Toronto Exchange. So and then it's nice to be able to hang around in the hallway and just be in a conversation with Jason Wild and Boris Jordan. Hang out with Graham from Glass House a little bit. Very, very good audience. But then I went into private meetings as well. And I'm talking to a few, private funds, family offices that are invested in MSOs, talking to a few other of the same that are considering investing in MSOs. So again, institutional-ish, not true retail. And even though it was a bad week already, we were already in this rut that we've been in the last 3 weeks.
Yeah.
Pretty damn positive overall.
So there's interest there. They just
are those prospective investors that potentially want to invest in MSOS? Are they better educated than the segment we just talked about on the Schwab Network?
Yes, or they wouldn't be attending that meeting. Yeah, that's the important thing. Why would the heck would they be at a hotel in Manhattan? That's a Canaccord Cannabis conference. Now, Anthony, to your question, do they know the ins and outs of why does MSOs have so much cash in it? Tell us about these swaps. So no, I'm still educating up on those types of questions, basic questions, which I love educating people up on that stuff. We always have new people come into the space. They're different people than we told the same story to 2 years ago. Yeah, but I'm happy to keep telling the story because we have new people coming to the space. And it doesn't matter, Anthony, if they are a family office, a hedge fund, or an individual investor. We got to answer those questions about the cash, the swaps, counterparties. Why are you doing it this way? All that stuff.
What's the most common question that you think you get? Yeah, go ahead.
Most common question.
That was a good question, Chad.
It's just, why do you have swaps? What are these swaps?
Yeah.
I was going to say, does their appetite increase if that swap structure is done away with and you're actually able to hold the equity at large within the fund, or does it not really matter to them once everything's spelled out?
The people that are looking to invest in it now, once they understand it, no, it does not, Anthony. Am I 100% sure that there are other people that are waiting for that? Yeah, I'm really sure of that. And that's more of what we've run into lately is realizing there's so many people that cannot invest still as compared to wanting to invest, because there's plenty of firms out there that have our fund officially blocked. Now, a lot more firms have GTI and Verano and Truly blocked than but they can invest in the fund. But Morgan Stanley, B of A, Merrill, UBS, they can't invest in the fund. Yeah. Although they do have investments in the fund. Mm-hmm. If you are in a certain leg of B of A, Merrill, or you have a certain amount of pull there, because they have tens of millions of dollars on their books of our fund.
Yeah.
It's weird.
That makes sense.
So all in all, big takeaways is that it was a very productive, it was all business. It was productive. Yep. And they're there, of course they're learning more about the space, but would you say like a scale of 1 to 10 interest level? I don't want to say about them getting in and whether they can't rate now, but if everything goes the way we're hoping it, is it with your big takeaway from what you saw being there the last couple of days that they eventually do want to get into the space?
100%. Yeah. But hey, I got to give you a caveat. This is a much smaller conference than what you guys saw attending Benzinga down in Florida, which is a retail conference. And this is a little bit more intimate. Now,
Yeah,
dollar in, dollar out, there might even be more investment money at the Canaccord conference.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's a much smaller audience.
Yeah,
yeah, and I mean, I think it should be said that, I mean, one of the things that David Klein always says when we interview him is cannabis is a macro trend. People do not ignore macro trends, especially smart money. And I mean, last night you had CNBC running with a segment saying that daily cannabis use has now surpassed daily alcohol use. So cannabis was deemed essential in 2021. It's now finally being deemed as a disruptor in 2024. Those people take notice and those people want in. So they're going to find a way in sooner or later. And I mean, it is a macro trend. That's the only way to define it.
That is such a great point, Anthony. That's why we do what we do, right?
Yeah.
All right, sir. Well, listen, appreciate you checking in here on Monday. Lots to talk about. We dove into a lot, but I feel good. I feel decent. 2 weeks ago, I was like, here we go into the summer months, but it is what it is. But
I think
I'm not saying we're out in the clear, but everything's like, look, if you're a long holder in this space, stop looking at the share price. There's lots of positive stuff on the horizon. It's just a matter of, having these calls and conversations and getting through it, right?
Yeah, another reason I'm sort of positive like you are, Shad. I'm very unhappy with the price action the last couple of weeks. But the reason I'm somewhat happy is I'm also having some very productive conversations with some very big broker dealers / federal banks. About cannabis. That I can't tell you more than that, but I'm having very productive conversations.
We were interviewing Larry Scheffler last week from Planet 13, contacts that he has, guys in New York talking about cannabis funds and putting stuff together. Like there's conversations regardless of who you talk to in this space right now. There's a lot more pieces to the puzzle than just a one-on-one conversation. And that's the encouraging thing and the stuff that we learn along the way. So what were we going to say, Anthony?
I was going to say, trust me, the custody thing is frustrating. I have stock in my LLC account that is literally sitting there that I purchased on the exchange, and I try to deposit a DRS in the exact same name, and they will not take the DRS. And it is for no reasons why they can even tell me. I literally give them the example. I go, guys, I've got 6 figures of this stock sitting in this account. You're holding it right now. Apparently, I've got this DRS that was legally purchased. I have an opinion letter. I have everything that you need. Take the damn DRS.
Yeah.
No, simply no. Go somewhere else.
Different department.
It's crazy. Yeah.
Times Ren, Steelers Therapy writes, everything is about share price, Shad. Everything. Yes. When it all comes down to it, you're right. But a lot of those things we're just talking about put together, share price will take care of itself. Dan, appreciate the time. We'll see you next Monday.
Absolutely. Yep.
Thank you, sir.
You know.
Thanks, guys.
Always good to check up with him. That was encouraging what he learned, though, at the conference in New York. But that was good. Yeah.
I mean, I think the only thing we didn't talk about that we probably should have hit on is the cannabis versus hemp debate that's going on. And I think that's going to get a lot spicier in the coming weeks, especially in Florida.
You are right there.
I mean, I didn't do myself a service with reading the entire article. Apparently the chair of the Republican Party of the state of Florida is also the lead cannabis lobby, or the lead lobbyist for the hemp industry in the state of Florida. And the article last week alleging that DeSantis is going to veto this hemp bill. If you look at the Florida Register, officially the hemp bill, or the bill to ban intoxicating hemp products, hasn't even been formally sent to the governor's office.
Wow.
So there's a lot. It's almost like they're trying to get us to fight within ourselves and kind of turn us against each other just for shits and giggles. I think that before people start going and alleging that the hemp industry is actively fighting Amendment 3 in the state of Florida, we need to get a lot more facts and an actual statement from DeSantis's office that he does, in fact, plan to veto this bill. And this just isn't rhetoric and posturing to get people against one another.
Yeah.
Because I can't see him supporting gas station bullshit, to be honest, and saying no to regulated, safe products at an adult use level, because essentially the hemp industry right now is adult use. You can buy anybody of age can go in and buy it.
Well,
It's
that
the
story
same
that we
thing.
outlined from, was it Fox 5 on Friday? Like, that was
Yeah.
just garbage.
Yeah.
But you're right. It's about causing chaos, and this industry has a tendency of flipping out. And I get it, as far as, why things seems like such common sense don't make common sense. But we really need to get Mr. Morgan on and talk about some of this political landscape. I think he'd be great.
After the Republican Party revealing today, I've reached out to 5 more people to try to get John on. I'd love to get his comments on the chair of the Republican Party of Florida also being the leading hemp lobbyist in the state of Florida, and how that ties into DeSantis and the Republican Party essentially being the loudest megaphone against 3.
Why would you complain about the smell of marijuana when talking about legalization, then veto the hemp bill that makes unregulated marijuana readily available? DeSantis leak is suspect as
correct. It's like we're being played. I mean, I'm not going to allege that the hemp industry is out to get us until I see until I get some concrete facts, because it just looks suspect.
Agreed. I remember we did a Twitter space last summer, and one of our people on our team at the time asked about just the whole big pharma play in cannabis with Don Murphy. And he's like, they don't even think about it. It's not even on their radar. I wouldn't even read too much into that. And who knows, maybe that's the case here too. But I think there's, definitely things to learn, but we'll reach out to the appropriate people and try to get some feedback. We got some more MSOs as far as research. As I said last week, TrueLeaf, CureLeaf, GTI, if you want to basically get full coverage and full research reports as to what it entails from our lead financial writer and analyst, Bill McNarland, make sure to log on to thedalesreport.com and subscribe to the Baked In newsletter. And please subscribe now. We appreciate it. We've seen a big explosion of subscribers over the last week or so. So clearly something is going well. So if you haven't done so already, please do so. Well, we do our Small Cap Sunday podcast. We highlight 4 small cap companies, including one cannabis company, every Sunday night. Tomorrow at 4:00, we're launching our first YOLO. This is microcap stocks. So we're going to include one cannabis company as well. If you want to leave some comments below on specific companies you want us to cover, we'll have a look at it. But that's logging on tomorrow. Myself and Bill McNarland are going to do a microcap show. These are companies valued between 15 million and 250 million in market cap. These are go big or go home ideas based on the feedback from our viewers. This is what they want. This is what we're giving you. So that'll be our first podcast beginning tomorrow as we dive into that and see big upside potential on companies that we think can grow and the reasons why. Tomorrow at 4:00.
Also, just so everybody knows, because I've seen this a lot on Twitter today.
Yep.
And someone just asked it in the comments. Ron DeSantis cannot veto Amendment 3. It is a proposed constitutional amendment in the state of Florida. It cannot be vetoed by the governor. That cannot happen.
Good to know. Well said. Was that circulating quite a bit online today?
Yeah, I've seen it a bunch. I got it asked to me 3 times today. And then Christopher Brady just put it into the comments. But yes, there is, regardless of what DeSantis says, regardless of what happens, he cannot veto that thing if it gets passed. Okay.
John, thanks for the feedback. We'll take a look at MariMed as we do closely all the time. And ITHUF. Is that Ianthus?
That's Ianthus.
That's what I thought. All right. Thanks for checking in. Leave some comments below. Share this video with your network if you can. And appreciate all the feedback. And smash that like button. Enjoy the rest of your afternoon. We're back here on Wednesday to talk more about the space. In the meantime, enjoy the rest of your afternoon, everyone. Anthony, see you later.
See ya.
Hey everyone, thanks for watching our latest podcast. Lots of momentum building. You guys getting all excited? Leave comments below. Again, we want to take this viral. Smash that like button and make sure to click on that bell for all notifications as we start to bring on bigger and bigger guests. Don't forget to subscribe to our daily newsletter, the Baked In newsletter, by logging on to thedalesreport.com. And we want to take this viral, as I said, and make this community grow. So make sure to subscribe on that channel because we wouldn't be here without you. Thanks again, everyone, for watching.